Michigan hockey fans, are you ready to brave the wild? With me, your host, Paladino Joey. Brave the Wild is available on thesportstuff.com, iTunes, Stitcher, and Double Twist. It's a great pleasure to be back on board once again today, finally, as it's been, about 2-3 weeks? Yeah, gosh, it's been 3 weeks since the last show, and I do apologize for that. Believe it or not, it is a Saturday, and I would normally be working, but there's some snow on the ground, so yeah, well, like I was saying, it'd be odd days, this and that, when I'm able to record because of the month of November with the fall cleanup job right now. So, again, that'll continue for a while, the randomness of the release. Plus, I wasn't feeling so hot. I'm still not feeling my best. So, again, just letting you know as to why there's been a delay. The Wild, well, they've had some up and down performances since the last show. I guess kind of as expected. You lose to Columbus in a back-and-forth game. You thought the Wild were going to win that one, and then just the frickin' floodgates opened, yeah, because the last recording of the show came up, was it October 14th, I believe. So, yeah, it's been a while. That was the same day as the Columbus game, of course. The Columbus game, I previewed that, and then things went the way they did. I only previewed 2 games in that one, if I remember correctly. Yeah, but I gave a shout-out to the the Fireside podcast, still giving them a shout-out right now. Fireside Chat, by the way, that's what it's really called, the Calgary Flames podcast. Really enjoyable. I might be on a segment one time with them when the next time the two teams play, the Wild and the Calgary Flames. The Wild actually beat the Flames on the road. That was pretty fun. We lose to Columbus, we lose to Columbus, and you lose to Winnipeg. Really frustrating on October the 20th. That was not a really good game on the road. Just the same old story, it felt like. And then you win it back-to-back with Alex Stalock in that. So Alex Stalock getting his first win with the Wild. Then you figure, okay, we'll definitely beat Vancouver. And then you get shut out 1-0. 1-0 by the Vancouver Canucks on the 24th. What an abomination that was for many fans watching that game. My God. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I mean, really? The only guy to score in the game was Jake Virtanen, his second goal of the season, and unassisted on a turnover. Anders Nilsson with the shutout. He stopped 29 shots. You can hardly recognize this team anymore. Of course, Thomas Vanek is recognizable, and the Sedin brothers, who have gotten much older. Sam Gagner, a nice, valuable player. Why did he go there? I mean, nice, valuable, bottom 6 kind of guy. Why the hell did he go there? But I guess he did. Marcus Granlund, the younger brother of Mikael Granlund, all that good stuff. But against all the frustration going on with the Wild. I mean, yeah, you got to see Justin Kloos play a little bit, number 82. That was kind of cool. But also, finally, some guys on the mend. You get to see Marcus Foligno come back. That was nice. Foligno, come back. You're seeing some signs from Luke Cunnin that he absolutely, absolutely deserves to stay in the NHL. At least a lot of us would feel that way. Mikael Granlund comes back from the groin injury. That was wonderful. This is his first game back. He did not look really good. He was playing against his younger brother. No kidding, right? Foligno came back and made a really nice play. Also, he had a nice goal this past week, or a couple weeks, I should say, on a rebound. He literally got on the ground and flipped that puck past the goaltender. That was pretty exciting for a lot of us. Chris Stewart continued his surge for a while there. It slowed down a bit. But, it is what it is. It's just funny to imagine how Chris Stewart on the power play, that's how injured the Wild were. Yet, hey, he was actually scoring on the power play. So, good for him. Luke Cunnin has been on the 4th line. He's moved up to the top line, if you call it that, because it's kind of interchangeable. The top 6, is it the top line or the second line between the Stahl line and the Koivu line? Of course, right now, currently, with Niederreiter also coming back a little quicker than people expected. He started skating and was able to start playing about a week ago. Really exciting to have Nino back. Not a huge factor until recently. Very recently against Montreal, the floodgates opening against Carey Price for the second year in a row. How weird is that? But he has not been good this year at all for Montreal, which is quite alarming, I got to think. He was looked on as the best goalie in the league and an MVP candidate every stinking year, and he's still young. So I don't know what's going on with Carey Price and the Montreal Canadiens at the moment. Well, we'll come back to that fairly soon. Daniel Winnick adding an empty netter, finally getting his first goal in the Calgary game. Luke Cunnin getting his first and second assist. So a bunch of firsts in the Calgary game. That was nice to see, or a couple firsts anyway. Yeah, Brian Suter's first goal Conan assisting on that one, and of course assisting on the empty netter from Daniel Winnick, which actually was a pretty good play. So, and yes, I guess you're going to get the empty netter from him. His second goal of the season was a lot better. That was an awesome play. It looked like a 30-goal scorer on that one. Jared Spurgeon even getting his first goal of the season, where that little guy, the good little guy, the one that's not playing as well necessarily, other than getting a couple of power play goals a few weeks back, was his best friend, Tyler Ennis. He's not playing quite as well as Spurgeon right now. I think Spurgeon is outplaying everybody on the roster. First couple weeks, you could say Chris Stewart was the best player. I think Spurgeon has become the best player overall at this point, I got to say. An ugly, yucky game on the 26th against the New York Islanders. But a win. I mean, and it seems like when you get the floodgates to open, then silly stuff starts happening on the other side. It seems like the Wild start to get a little sloppy, and even Devin Dubnyk, he starts, I don't know, like the puck just starts to bounce funny, and it just goes right past him. That happened last night against Montreal on one of the later, on the last goal for the Canadiens along the way. I couldn't believe it. We'll get back to that in a second. Zach Mitchell made a very nifty play in the Winnipeg game. That was definitely the fourth line. Mitchell, Winnick, and it's just kind of interchangeable who has been on the fourth line at the time, because Cullen bounced up for a little while with the injuries to, of course, several players on the roster. I believe in this game, again, the line's been interchangeable. I believe it was Cullen on that line. Yes, it was. As things continue to bounce around, Joel Eriksson is pretty much Joel Eriksson, Joel Eriksson has stayed on the third line the whole season for the most part. Because he hasn't really shown a whole lot of, I don't know, you're not seeing a whole lot of Joel Yule, I don't know what to call him anymore. I'll say Yule because I suppose it is the right pronunciation, even though nobody calls Mikhail Granlund. Oh, boy. He, by the way, was able to pick up his first assist of the season there. So that was nice at least. He's back with of course, you could kind of let the top line, the second line, Koivu, Granlund, Zucker, that's been reunited, and they've been playing fantastic together. Zucker with a very nice put-in from Mikhail Granlund, as he always does those little slide passes. Love to see what you're getting out of that. And, of course, Eric Stahl getting 2 points in this game on the breakaway along the way and adding an assist. This was the game where Marcus Foligno had that awesome goal where he was going down and he put it in. He just kind of swung that stick from the ground and slid it past Greasy of the New York Islanders. Again, pardon me, my voice is a little funky as I'm still not completely recovered yet. And if there's a tiny bit of noise in the background, again, I apologize for that as well. Minnesota Wild, though, I mean, this was a fun game offensively. That was what got you excited. And also forgive my disorientation with the lines because it kept changing. Guys started to come back and the lines would change a bit. So it kind of is what it is. Obviously, Zach Mitchell on the fourth line at this stage. He would go back to Iowa very soon. Spurgeon adding a couple more assists in the game. Dumba, boy, don't get me started on him as the frustration really starts to take over later. But a sloppy game where Dubnyk gave up 4 goals, but luckily the offense takes over and the Minnesota Wild win that one. Then you get to Pittsburgh. The Wild, of course, host the game, but I mean the Pittsburgh game on Saturday night. This was a fun game, you could definitely say. Matt Murray was strong in net, but Devin Dubnyk was better. Big step up for Devin Dubnyk in this game, and of course, you're going to get the 2-time defending champions, 3 overall since Mr. Sidney Crosby's in there, but back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins. The defense got so much tighter in this game, and of course, Winnick adding this was the game where Winnick had that huge goal, and it was just awesome. What a good play. Matt Cullen adding the assist on that one. On the fourth line, is Zach Mitchell still on the fourth line at this stage, but it's because, of course, Granlund and Foligno back. That's why you're able to have Cullen back on the fourth line, as he'd been the third line center during some of those games where things got really strange. Things tightened up a bit, and it was nice. Sometimes it's good to get a 2-1 win versus a 6-4 win. I mean, it's like, okay, cool, it's exciting to see goals, but then you're seeing sloppy play. 6-4, I mean, that's too much. That's ugly. That's a 10-goal game, and it's like, I don't know what to think about that. That's a little bit too much, I think. And, of course, Mr. Bruce Boudreau was very strict about tightening things up, and the Wild did that very nicely against arguably the best team in the NHL. Jake Gensel making his return, a couple shots on goal, but ultimately could not finish along the way. The Penguins had their chances. They certainly were frustrated, though, and that was the good part. You got them frustrated. You kept them reeling a bit throughout the game. And Devin Dubnyk was slightly better than Matt Murray, and that's pretty much what mattered in this one, and it was nice to see the club step up. I mean, Daniel Winnick does have a lot of skill for a guy who's mostly looked on as a defensive stud, a physical player. And it's like you think, oh, if he scores, it's a bonus. And yes, it's a bonus, but clearly the guy does have some talent, and he's been, and that's why he's been in the league for so long. And his defense is so good. I mean, he's not just out there to knock people around. His defense is so good. He's just strong on the stick. He's able to poke the puck away as good as just about anybody. And boy, Daniel Winnick has been a wonderful addition to this club, and I'll continue to say that. Marcus Foligno coming back, too. When he first came back, and he was the first guy to come back from the injuries and such, obviously, of course, broken bone in his face, and he's been having to wear that Gopher hockey cage. It's not really the Gophers, but it looks like it, on his face for a few weeks now. You see the value of him. You're seeing skill, and, of course, he's physical. He's not perfect, and nobody is. He's a little bit clumsy on occasion out there, a little clumsy with the puck, but his defense is strong, and I don't know, he definitely provides offense, and you know the skill is very much there. You've seen scoring chances from him. You didn't see one in this Pittsburgh game, per se. Didn't get any shots and goal in this one. He's mostly on the defense. They were tightening things up very strongly in this game, but an overall solid performance for Marcus Foligno the past couple of weeks here since he's returned from that injury. Tyler Ennis, you're just seeing him. He's just kind of like part of the scenery, just getting knocked around a bit until finally last night against Montreal when he had a pretty nice skill goal on a good pass from Cullen after Cullen forcing a turnover along the way. Cullen had a huge night last night against the Montreal Canadiens. We're going to come back to that in a second, but a nice, fun win over the Pittsburgh Penguins, I got to say. The Winnipeg game, well, you know, I mean, this game wouldn't have been as frustrating until Matt Dumba did what he did, just had a horrendous turnover. I mean, we've generally played well against the Winnipeg Jets, but then, of course, the scoring just stops again. And, and there's a reason why the goal early in the third period, Winnipeg already was up 1-0 in the game, but why it's unassisted from Ehlers. Nicolas Ehlers there. Matt Dumba's bringing the puck up. He looks like he's going to do a little reverse pass or whatever you want to call it, kind of a little dump off, like reverse dump off to Mikael Granlund, and it goes right to Ehlers, and it just leaves you stunned. Like, is this real or is this some kind of like a little joke? You're just kind of having fun. You're just messing around. Somebody just made this up. No, you can't make it up. It was like that bad. I mean, he literally just passed the puck to Ehlers, and Ehlers is all by himself. Of course, Devin Dubnyk couldn't make the stop on that one. As good as Dubnyk was in the game, and it made Mikael Granlund reeling for trying to stop Ehlers. There's nothing he could do. There's too much space. Just a terrible, terrible play by Matt Dumba, and it left him to be benched. And he had a horrible game before that. The second period, Matt Dumba looked like he didn't even belong in the NHL, and it just left you stunned. I mean, you couldn't believe what you're seeing. Man, it just stunned. Luke Cunnin was able to score off the rebound, his second goal of the season. Only 5 minutes into the third period, you figure, okay, the Wild would have a chance. But then, of course, no, nothing would get past Hellebuyck. It's just so frustrating. Hellebuyck, he's been an in-and-out kind of goalie. Sometimes he's good, sometimes he's not, but he certainly was good on this one. And, of course, he was. There's a couple of Connors leading the way. Kyle Connor scoring early on a pretty good goal there. Better than the Ehlers goal, I'd have to say. Anyway, at least you saw a skill involved. Obviously, Ehlers is a good player, but not when the puck is given to him from your supposed, top prospect defenseman there from Matt Dumba. He's the top prospect on the team in terms of defenseman, as in he's actually a young guy. I mean, the other players obviously are veterans. Dumba's starting to become a veteran, you would hope, and it's not happening. You're still seeing rookie-type mistakes from Matt Dumba on a regular basis, and that's what leaves people just beside themselves. It's also frustrating how the Wild could get nothing past Hellebuyck down the stretch, and, of course, Winnipeg's defensive style taking over. Sometimes the floodgates are open with Winnipeg, and sometimes it's complete grinded out, and that's what this game was for the Wild. And the frustration set in early and often on Halloween night, and boy, Matt Dumba was definitely haunted by that one. At least he owned up to it in the post game interviews and such, in the locker room, all that, he owned up to it, and he said, "Yeah, it sucks, and it was a bad play, and I'm basically like that, and it's his own fault." But Bruce Boudreau basically he pulled no punches on that one. He was basically was saying time and again how that type of play cannot happen, and he thought he was better than that, and this type of thing, and I thought Matt Dumba was going to get scratched. A lot of people locally, like Judd Zolgad, thought Matt Dumba should be scratched for a game or two. And, of course, at least bring up Kyle Quincy. I mean, activate Kyle Quincy. He's on the team already. Or even, what do? You go from a team where we talk about how rich we are defensively with defensemen in the system and all that, to now it's like, who do we have? So far Olofsson's not been really good. You're seeing him with little gaffes here and there, not as bad as Dumba's. You're seeing absolutely no offense from him whatsoever, and it just kind of leaves you with like, what do we do here with the defensive core? Mike Riley, luckily for us, he's starting to play better. Starting out the season, there was nothing really good to say about Mike Riley. He's just kind of there, and he makes some mistakes like he always did. Like last year, he was horrendous, but he's packed up 5 assists. He's been playing on the power play, and that's nice. He's played 2 less games than Matt Dumba, has the same amount of assists. Dumba, of course, 2 points last night against the Montreal Canadiens. To that point, in 10 games, Dumba only had 3 total assists, no goals on the season. So the frustration definitely piling up with Matt Dumba starting out the season. And it's like you protect him from Vegas, you make the trade and all that, so the Vegas Knights, Golden Knights, don't take him. And then this is what you're getting. It just leaves you at a loss. You're always afraid about, oh goody, another Brent Burns type of trade where you come out way behind. Of course, Coyle's been okay. He's been an above-average player, but certainly not at the level of what Brent Burns has become. How many defensemen score 70 points? That's insane. Brent Burns looked on as one of the top players in the league at this stage for the San Jose Sharks. It took him a little while, but it happened. And you look in the system, okay, you have 2 guys that I like, but I'm noticing an unwillingness from the Wild to try to call any one of them up. And of course, Matt Dumba's on a one-way contract. You're going to get stuck with an NHL contract in the minors if you send him down. And I don't know if they have the balls to do that at this point. And I don't blame them either, because Dumba should be a valuable player for this team. He's shown it in the past. He did get 34 points last year, despite some of the defensive gaffes. 34 points is decent, and it's something to build upon. And that's what the hope was with Matt Dumba. And maybe here comes the 40-point season, maybe even more than that. Maybe finally you see some type of focus defensively, and the gaffes start to disappear a little bit. Maybe there's still a couple, but not as bad as that one. And that was just an eye-opener for a lot of us, thinking this guy's never going to get it. What the hell? You saw a much better game against Montreal, though, and that is the huge hope on November the 2nd. That was the hope that something terrible like that would wake up Matt Dumba once and for all. Jared Spurgeon, as we stay on defenseman, he's actually leading the team in scoring. He's the Brent Burns for the club with 9 points so far. Eric Stahl, you're hearing complaints that he's kind of taking a step back. Well, he's still finding his way into the box scores. He's got 8 points on the year, 4 goals, 4 assists. He's still the best breakaway guy on the team. The way he kind of comes in almost in slow motion. He lulls that goalie to sleep, and then the quick hands beat out the goaltender, and it's a beautiful thing to see. I appreciate it very much. Koivu's made a huge step up this past week. A couple of nice plays last night, a couple of assists, some awesome passes. One over the aforementioned Jared Spurgeon, a one-timer type of play on the power play. Koivu able to set up Spurgeon. Granlund already has 3rd assist in just a couple of games, so nice as Granlund's coming back slowly. And then now you're starting to see the playmaking from Kyle Granlund. This was an awesome tic-tac-toe play. Granlund down to Koivu centering over through the crease, literally through the crease, over to Jared Spurgeon, who was able to one-time it in there for his 2nd goal of the season. That was the highlight of the game, even though it was the 5th goal, as Carey Price continued to struggle. Colin opened things up as Riley and Winnick getting the puck on net. Colin able to finish, just kind of wristed it, and it went off the pads. And Carey Price just kind of like, literally, you could just see the look on his face, like, are you kidding me? Matt Dumba putting the puck on net, looked like he scored. Nino Niederreiter just barely getting a piece of it for his first goal of the season. And that's a guy, again, a very, very needed point for Matt Dumba to make him feel a bit better. And again, he had a very strong game. Matt Cullen forced a turnover along the way. Dumba also a part of the play. Cullen bringing it up and setting up Tyler Ennis for a nice one-timer as well. A nice finish. Matt Cullen, you're still seeing that skill out of Matt Cullen. It seemed like he almost needed to get the engine started this year, a little bit slow out of the gate, but now you're starting to see what Matt Cullen can do again. I mean, the guy still got it at 41, and happy birthday to Matt Cullen, by the way, on Friday. 41st birthday for Matt Cullen, and he's still got it out there, and it's a pleasure to watch. 4 points now in the season for Matt Cullen. Tyler Ennis, that much-needed third goal. Very nice to see Suter look like he missed the pass from Koivu, and then able to finish as Koivu got another crack at it, getting it over to Suter for his second goal of the season. Again, Carey Price looked like he was beside himself. The Brendan Gallagher goal, the third goal for the Montreal Canadiens, That was tough. The second goal they gave for Brendan Gallagher, he had two along the way. I don't have a huge problem with those two. I mean, it's like, okay, I guess they're going to score some goals, and Dubnyk's not perfect. He's not the best goalie of all time or anything, but that third goal, I mean, what happened there? It's like Dubnyk saw it coming. He was ready for it, and it just went right off the skate, and right off Dubnyk's skate into the net, and it just left you like, are you serious? Did that really go in? And yes, it did. Foligno with a nice shot from center ice, basically, to finish off the empty netter to make it 6-3. A fun win for the Wild, but that third goal was a little bit like, oof, boy. Dubnyk needs to get his act together. I mean, some games he's solid, like the Pittsburgh game, and then you have games like this where he was good for a while, and then it just seemed like, I don't know, 3 goals. We're lucky we got 6. We're lucky we got 5 and all that. We're lucky Carey Price wasn't on his game, because 3 goals against the Canadiens not too long ago usually would spell like a 3-2, 3-1 loss. So fortunately the Wild were able to come through. I don't know if it's some kind of weird comfort zone we get into when we build a lead like that or what, but luckily, again, the damage had been done. The Wild finished the job. Montreal really off to a yucky start. They're 4-8-1 on the season. They're 8th place in their division. Last place, terrible. The Wild still 7th place, believe it or not, despite a winning record, which is also surprising considering how icky of a start it's been for the Wild. But they've been on the rebound, been on the mend the past couple of weeks. 5-4-2 on the season, 7th place, but the Wild right there, tied with a couple teams and about 2 points behind for the wild card position. So the Wild still very much in the mix, at least for that. Let's pass out the show-by-show awards. I can't say weekly awards for this show. Since the last game, oh boy, it's been bouncing back and forth, but I got to give it to Jared Spurgeon. I think he's been the best player on the team since the last show. Strong defense, and of course been providing that offense as well. He's leading the team in scoring, which is amazing for a defenseman. And you don't think of Spurgeon as a guy who's going to lead the team in scoring, but he might end up with 40 or 50 points this year the way he's been going. And it's been a huge pleasure to watch. He's on every power play, and he's always a part of it. It seems like whenever there's a power play goal, he finds a way in it somehow, some way, putting the puck on net or setting somebody up, and again, finishing on the power play in this game. Very, very awesome indeed. Jared Spurgeon leading the way, leading the team in scoring. Much to my delight. The James Shepard Memorial, I think it's a no-brainer. It's going to Matt Dumba. Just that one play alone. But, of course, again, a very terrible game against Winnipeg. A game you lose 2-1, which is extremely winnable. For him to be as bad as he was, I mean, it's stunning. And the Wild are lucky to be in that game as close as they were all the way to the end there. But to give up a goal like that, just unacceptable, and I'm sorry he's not going to avoid the James Shepard Memorial for that play. We'll be back right after this to preview a few games and to check up on the prospects. And we are back here on Brave the Wild. Going to preview 4 games against Chicago, Boston, Toronto, and Montreal as the Wild will wrap up that homestand, the 6-game homestand, and go on a 4-game road trip, start a little 2-gamer and all that good stuff as we head into Thanksgiving eventually down the stretch. As we're going to check out the standings, of course, a little bit just to look at how things are shaping up for a hopeful playoff picture for the Wild and other teams. Hopefully the Wild make it, and I think they will. I still think the Wild will end up getting things together, but I'd rather be in the division lead than the whole wild card situation. That's frustrating. And, of course, we check in on the prospects like we always do, and I love talking about them. Of course, it's a huge part of the show, and especially the defensive core. There are some players out there in the pipeline, in the college ranks at this stage, or, of course, a couple guys in Iowa that I'd like to see get a look at some point this year. In fact, very soon, if Dumba continues to struggle. And if Olofsson provides a whole lot of nothing, which he's done so far. Very frustrating. Looking at the standings, you just can't even believe how bad Arizona is. And I thought they were going to be one of the surprise teams this year with improved goaltending and such, and some nice additions. They're 1-12. That's horrendous. 3 points on the season. The Wild 12 points. 2 points behind the Blackhawks, which is key. Obviously, the Wild have beaten Calgary so far this season, believe it or not. 2 points behind them. Nashville and Anaheim right there ahead of the Wild. Anaheim 1 point ahead only. So a lot of mediocre teams right now. Vancouver and Dallas holding the wild card spots. Crazy. St. Louis in first place. The Kings, the Los Angeles Kings, have been the surprise team, you could say, this year. And St. Louis surprising me a little bit because I thought they were going to drop off, and they haven't. Winnipeg way up there. Colorado is a huge surprise considering how awful they were. And, of course, the Knights, Vegas Knights, and the Sharks have only 2 more points than the Wild, yet are division leaders. So, still, the Wild can very much catch up to the Colorado Avalanche. Again, only 2 points ahead of the Wild, but 3rd place in the Central. So, still time. There's still plenty of time. The Wild 9 points behind St. Louis and the Kings if they want to be the top seed in the Western Conference. Let's get on with it, shall we? Crucial game tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks if you want to move up in the standings and get things moving in the right direction. The Wild have won a game so far against the Blackhawks this year, which is nice. The Blackhawks, again, only 6-5 on the year. Corey Crawford still very strong in net, though, but the scoring not the same for Chicago thus far. The overall consistency not the same for Chicago. A lot of people ready to see this team kind of go into, like maybe they'll make the playoffs, but they're not going to be a great team anymore. That's the hope for a lot of us. Patrick Kane leading the way, 13 points, 5 goals on the season for him. Richard Panik still doing well with 8 points. He'd be second on the Wild in scoring. Ryan Hartman, a pickup for my fantasy team. He had a huge start and has slowed down a bit, kind of come back down to reality. 10 points on the year for Ryan Hartman. A little bit of Chris Stewart action going on there. Brandon Saad has been very strong in the return, 9 points on the year. 6 goals to lead the Chicago Blackhawks by himself. 6 goals on the year ahead of Patrick Kane, believe it or not, for Brandon Saad. Oh, Evil Otto himself back ready to roll for the Blackhawks. A very winnable game for the Wild, not because I think the Wild are better than the Blackhawks necessarily, but the Wild have played well against the Blackhawks in the regular season, for the most part. This is a huge one. The Blackhawks helped change the Wild season last year in late January with those crucial wins over the Wild. It changed a lot of things, and it was really frustrating and heartbreaking. Recently, the Blackhawks just beat the Philadelphia Flyers 3-0, so that's definitely going to help Corey Crawford's cause. Darling is no longer with the Blackhawks to provide a little bit of competition at the goalie position. He's leading the way for the Carolina Hurricanes at this point. Obviously, Aranta went on his way to the Arizona Coyotes, and they're horrendous. I can't even believe what I'm seeing. This is a game the Wild need to win. I mean, it's crucial. I expect some scoring for the Wild. I expect a fun game. I don't know if you're going to get fortunate like you did last time around with the non-offside call along the way, which frustrated the Blackhawks in a huge way and changed the game. That was Jason Zucker there, who ended up just barely avoiding an offsides call. And, of course, it sent Joel Quenneville into a huge volcanic eruption. And understandably, I suppose, when it's a close call like that, when he thought it should go his way. It's a winnable game for the Wild. I say beat them when they're down. They haven't been playing well other than the Philadelphia game. I mean, losing 6-3 to Colorado, that's disgusting. 2-1 loss to Nashville. They lose 4-2 to the Vegas Golden Knights not that long ago as well. Golden Knights still second place in that Pacific Division, no longer in first because the Kings have been crazy. And, of course, everybody beats Arizona, so that's not the most impressive win for the Chicago Blackhawks. Philadelphia is a decent team over there in the Eastern Conference. I mean, some of the guys like Ryan Hartman, who are off to a hot start, they're slowing down a bit. I wouldn't be surprised to see Brandon Saad score against the Wild because he always finds a way, and he drives people crazy. Remember years ago, getting our defenseman Stone into a huge into a crucial penalty, a stupid penalty years ago. Clayton Stoner, pardon me, into a stupid penalty along the way, and well, that's just kind of how that goes, I suppose. A winnable game for the Wild, like I keep trying to say. I think the Wild will win this one, and then obviously as you go onto the road into Boston and into the eastern part of Canada with Toronto and Montreal, that'll be kind of fun, as the Wild will be heading east in a big way. It'll be going to Philadelphia also to wrap up that East Coast swing, we'll call it. East Coast, eastern part of the continent, we'll say. I think it's a winnable game for the Wild, and I think the Wild will win the game. It actually might be lower scoring. I'm going to go 3-2, and it might even go to overtime. I hope it doesn't. I hope the Wild win in regulation for multiple reasons, so we're not scared to death. But I'm going to go 4-2 because empty netter. You'll see somebody like Winnick or Foligno or somebody like that, or Koivu even get the empty net goal. Koivu always accurate from a long distance like that. The most likely guy to score for the Wild in the game is going to be Jason Zucker. Why not? He got in the head of the Blackhawks last game, and I think he can again. Jason Zucker will score and keep things rolling. You're going to see that top line. Well, we'll call it the top line, the best playing line for the Wild, for the most part. Koivu, Zucker, and Granlund, even though you could say, again, I've been the fourth line of late. Spectacular against Montreal. They're going to be a factor in the game, I'm sure. They'll probably factor in one of the goals or something, set something up. Maybe, I don't know, on the penalty kill. Who knows? Maybe a shorthanded goal, something crazy like that along the way, like Cullen setting up some kind of shorthanded goal. Don't be surprised if something like that does happen on the second penalty kill unit. But I think the Wild will win 4-2 with the empty netter over the Chicago Blackhawks. I like the momentum coming in. I like how the Wild seem to, they hopefully have broken the curse, and hopefully the Blackhawks again continue to struggle the way they have this season. And I don't know, it's just a crucial win. I like the focus of the team the past couple of games. It's been very encouraging. So 4-2 victory for the Wild. Most likely going to score Jason Zucker. So then the Wild will play the Boston Bruins on November the 6th. Another team that's, well, they're a little better than last year, I guess. They're in fourth place in the Atlantic. They're fighting for that wild card position, 5-3-3 on the season. Tuukka Rask, who's been there for a while now, he's been all right. And Anton Khudobin, a former undrafted prospect for the Minnesota Wild, he's still around. Good for him. Khudobin still hanging in there. Goals against average 2.52. Tuukka Rask 2.64. Nothing spectacular. Khudobin's had a lot more luck so far this season. He started 4 games, and he's 3-0 on the year. Despite a goals against average and save percentage, that's a little better than Rask, luckily for him. Brad Marchand leading the way with 13 points, 8 goals on the year. He's been very strong. David Pasternak has been second on the team in scoring, 11 points on the year. This is a tough game. The Wild generally play well against the Boston Bruins. Of course, except the one game when Mike Yeo needed the victory, and the Bruins were not playing well that year. The Bruins shut the Wild down big time in that game. Was it 3-1, and Mr. Yeo was gone after that. So, as I'm trying not to cough to death here, pardon me. Again, please forgive my voice for not being what it needs to be. I'm still recovering. David Backes is out for a long period of time, and he has been a frustrating signing. And I'm glad the Wild did not throw a lot of money at David Backes because he's oft injured and he's past his prime. And the Boston Bruins are learning the hard way there. Chara, he's ancient now, and he's not the same guy. He's dropped off over the years, but again, some other players have stepped up along the way for the Bruins, and they're improving. Not the most recognizable group of guys, of course, anymore anyway. Bergeron's still there, 6 points for the wily veteran. Only 6 games, though. Again, he's missed time with injury, as the Wild know a little thing or two about that. Sure, it's a winnable game. Sure it is, but I don't know. I don't know what to make of this one. And I think if you're going to win a game on the road here in this 4-game stretch, at least of these next 3 games that I'm going to preview, this is the one you got to win because I think Toronto-Montreal might be a little tougher. Well, Montreal shouldn't, but it is a back-to-back. You'll see Alex Stalock and maybe Montoya, because of the way Carey Price has been against the Wild thus far. I wouldn't be surprised to see Khudobin in that. And if he is, I think the Wild might be in trouble a little bit. He's played well against the Wild in the past, actually. Again, because he's got a little bit of thing going on, of course, because the Wild didn't keep him. Tuukka Rask, obviously, he's had strong seasons in the past. He helped take the team to the Stanley Cup Finals years ago. Still fairly young, still got a nice career ahead of him. I keep bouncing on this one. Boy, oh boy. It's like you want to pick a win, but I don't think I'm gonna pick a 3-2 loss. I have a feeling Khudobin's gonna be in net, and I would not be surprised if he is. They should put him in, frankly, to be honest. I think maybe have Tuukka Rask against the Washington Capitals the game before, and then Khudobin against the Wild. I think that's what they should do if they're smart. And the Boston Bruins will win 3-2. Most likely guy to score for the Minnesota Wild. You wish it was Charlie Coyle, but he's still recovering with that broken leg, and of course Zach Parise out for an extended period of time with the back surgery. I didn't even mention that on this one, and I was going to talk about it, but it's like you get so disoriented, you think, okay, I already talked about that, but I didn't. Zach Parise, and of course all of you know that already, at least most of you, I would hope. Zach Parise will be out for 8 to 10 weeks as of last week with the back surgery. So now it's 7 to 9 weeks remaining for Zach Parise with the back surgery that you wish he took during the offseason, then he would have been healthy and ready to go. Nobody likes surgery. Nobody likes to go under the knife or under the laser or whatever it is. But you know what? Sometimes you gotta. I mean, just get it done, get better, and move on. I mean, do you think I liked surgery when I had it? No. But just get it done and move on. And no, I did not have back surgery. That's a little bit scarier. But apparently this was the kind of surgery that's not that hard to do. It just takes time to recover, and that might be the other frustrating part, I suppose. But then you come back, and if all goes well, you're a lot stronger than you were before, rather than trying to force the issue. And that's where the frustration comes into Zach Parise and that doggone back issue that's been plaguing him for about 2 years now. 2 bleeping years. But, yep, the Wild lose to Boston 3-2. You hope you can squeak out a point. Maybe we do. Maybe you get into the overtime or whatever. Squeak out a point, but don't win the game. 3-2 loss. Toronto Maple Leafs. Oh, boy. Wednesday, November the 8th. Auston Matthews and co. Well. Oh, my God. He is strong. Very strong. He's doing better than Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers, that's for sure. And they would be in the playoffs today if the season was if the season was over. They're in 3rd place in the Atlantic. They're part of the division leaders, and I do think Toronto is making that step forward this year, unlike Edmonton, again, which I can't believe. Toronto has scored the 2nd most goals in the season, which is incredible. Goals against, they're 27th, though. They've struggled there. As the goaltending, that's the hope. But, you're going to expect a higher scoring game, and it's probably going to head that way. They've won games. They've lost games 5-3. They lost to the Kings. They won games 3-1. So it's like they're a little inconsistent. When they get goaltending, they do well, and when they don't, they get crushed. And of course, you could say that about anybody. But their scoring is there. It's just a little inconsistent at times. In the past week or so, they have really struggled. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games. Their only win was against Anaheim. Other than that, they've lost to Carolina 6-3. Whew. Philadelphia 4-2. San Jose 3-2 on the road. And got beat pretty good by the LA Kings 5-3. Auston Matthews, though, definitely the star of Toronto, the future of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and to finally have a strong future for the club. Patrick Marleau leaving the Sharks on his way to Toronto to help give some veteran leadership. 9 points on the season, so not bad for the the veteran there, as he's playing on the second line for the most part down there, second or third line, kind of a middle guy, you could say, for that club. He's not going to be on the top line, not with that club. Auston Matthews, 18 points on the season, 10 goals. They're not spectacular numbers, but they're very good. Nylander, another big piece there, 11 points. Morgan Riley, Nazem Kadri, all these young guys that have emerged. And there's a mix of veterans on this club as well. Again, if you're going to beat Toronto, it's the goaltending. Frederik Andersen has not been good. Frederik Andersen, 7-5 on the season, 3.26. So that's an area of concern for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Curtis McElhinney has not been any better at all. In fact, you want to get relief for Frederik Andersen, who's not been good. And then McElhinney, it's like 4.1 goals against. He's been terrible. Luckily, for him, he's won one game at least on the season. I don't know what the heck. Must have been one of those crazy ones along the way. Frederik Andersen does have one shutout on the season, but very mediocre numbers so far. 3.25, 2.6 goals against average, and a save percentage of just 90. I mean, oof. It's been a struggle for him. I mean, the Wild in those high scoring games. I mean, I don't know. I guess they have been checkered because you had games like the Columbus Blue Jackets. You lose 5-4. You just hope you can be the last team that scores and you hang on to that lead at the end. That's the hope for the Wild if they're going to beat Toronto. It's like you want to pick a loss, but then you want to pick a win at the same time. Boy. But I think Dubnyk's going to be a net against this club, and then you'll see Alex Stalock against Montreal the next night because it is a back-to-back situation Thursday night. I think the Wild lose this one and win in Montreal, and it makes Alex Stalock look good again. That's what I think. That's what I think is going to happen. I think you're looking at something like a 4-3 loss to Toronto. Maybe magically Anderson is better. Or even McElhinney has a huge game. It's a big shock, Toronto. And of course, he has every right to do that. It's just the little time he has been in there, he's not been good. Most likely guy to score for the Wild against Toronto. Boy, Tyler Ennis. Yeah, I don't know. Most likely got to score in this one. I'll go with Mikael Granlund. I mean, it's more of a skill type of game, and against a defense that's not real good. It's not been a good defense now over there in Toronto, and of course the goaltending's not been good either. It's a combination of things. It's like all offense, no defense at this stage. Wow, the old Wiley veteran Dominic Moore, former Wild player years ago, with the third line and such, third line, fourth line center for the Wild years ago. 3 points in 8 games for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the rising club over there who can score with anybody, but can they stop anyone? That's the key, and that's kind of been their undoing so far. They are 8-6, however, and still would be in the playoffs with if the season ended today. The Wild will lose the game 4-3, in my humble opinion. So now we move on to Montreal, the Montreal Canadiens. I think you'll see better goaltending than you saw last time the Wild played Montreal. Now, of course, Dubnyk was good. He was very good at times, but then late in the game, it's like the comfort level got too high. Why do I have a sneaky feeling? It's like it should almost go the other way, but even El Montoya has not been good. Yet he has a spectacular success rate against the Wild in the past. I think it's too long ago, though. I mean, you have a different coaching staff. You have a lot of different players over the course of time. So, I mean, even if it is Al Montoya, I still think the Wild win the game. He has not been good. Both Carey Price and Al Montoya, same situation, literally. Same goals against average, save percentage, about 87. Yuck. Goals against average, about 3 3/4, 3.75 goals against average apiece. Slightly above that. We don't need to really go into that. Just keep Brendan Gallagher. Just keep an eye on him a little bit. Keep an eye on the puck. Watch where it's bouncing. That's all I got to say. Because that was extremely frustrating. Our Montreal native is no longer with us, and that's still a huge frustration for everybody here. That, of course, being Mr. Scandella, as the Wild miss him so very much. I would have picked him to be the guy to score, even though he doesn't score very often. Very winnable game. Montreal's not been good. The goaltending's been terrible. The offense hasn't been what they were hoping for. Jonathan Drouin is one of the best players on that team, and if he's one of your top players, it's one thing if the guy's valuable, but if he's one of your top players, you're probably not real good. Shea Weber's dropped off a little bit. He's still got the skill level, though. It is just kind of weird to imagine how both of those guys gone now. Suter and Weber, who used to lead the way for Nashville years ago, but how that's obviously come to a close in the whole trade that took place not that long ago. Winnable game for the Wild, I think they do. I'm going to go with a 3-2 victory. It'll be lower scoring, but the Wild will finish the job. 4-2 victory for the Wild. 4-2, yeah. I mean, you could even go 5-2 with the empty netter, but I'll say 4-2 for the Wild victory over Montreal. They will get 2 goals past Alex Stalock, but the Wild win the game. Most likely got to score in this one. Nino Niederreiter will add at least his second goal of the season. Maybe he added one during the course of the week at this point, but, well, that's in the future, so I can't say. But at least his second goal of the season will be Nino Niederreiter from either Cunnin or Eric Stahl, who he's still putting up the numbers. He looks slower. His defense isn't the same. His focus doesn't seem to be as strong as it was last year. But at least he's still putting numbers on the board, and I got to hope that Eric Stahl will get a little bit stronger focus during the course of the season. And Luke Cunnin, hopefully he can add a few more goals this week, as he's been a wonderful addition to this club. You're already seeing signs of leadership in the locker room, and that's really cool. At the very least, his conversations with the media, his maturity, his strength, and that's a huge encouragement for a lot of us out there. So now we're gonna bounce around, talk with the prospects a bit, and of course you could call Luke Cunnin a prospect because he still is. He's still very young. As we head that direction, we're looking at the Iowa Wild a little bit here, even though they haven't been that exciting. It's mostly veteran guys that have been in the AHL for a while, or people don't expect too much of a call up here. Pat Cannone, remember, he made his NHL debut last year at 31. He's second on the team in scoring with 7 points. Colton Beck with 9 points on the year. He's by far the leading scorer there with 6 goals. The next guy is 4. That's Cannone. Cal O'Reilly. Yep. Justin Kluse, though, he's really emerged, the former Gopher captain. He's been showing up in the AHL box scores. Good for him. 6 points for him so far. But again, these are guys who probably be in the AHL at the most. Samanas coming back from injury. It seems like he's oft injured. He's the Tyler Ennis of the club, but a little higher scoring. Good for him. 4 points in the 5 games he's been back. Kyle Rao came back from injury a little bit before that. 3 points in 7 games. Mario Lucia struggling mightily down there. 10 games, only 3 assists. As Mario Lucia, you get the high hopes on a guy, and he just kind of, I don't know. The Wild traded up to get him, remember, in the second round years ago, 2011, and this is what you're getting from him at the AHL level, and boy, makes you wonder, and it's too bad. I had high hopes on him, and I think a lot of us did. He seemed to drop off in his years with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and boy, too bad. I was hoping Mario Lucia would emerge and become one of the better ones, and so far he has not done that. Carson Soucy, 2 points so far in 11 games. More of a stay-at-home physical defenseman and a guy I think a lot of us would like to see skate for the Wild this year at some point. And, of course, another guy who's stay-at-home and extremely physical and smart and solid, and that's Nick Seeler, the former Gopher. Both of these guys played for Minnesota colleges. Of course, Nick Seeler more memorable with the Gophers and all that. But Carson Soucy, I mean, obviously the Duluth Blue Devils have been very good. Duluth Bulldogs, what am I talking about? The Blue Devils? I'm too excited here, and I got to stop it. The Duluth Bulldogs. I can't believe I just said that. Oh, I'm leaving that on. It's like, you know, I don't like to edit out much stuff because it's funny. It's more funny than anything, stuff like that. So that one's going to stay. Nicholas Threadberg has gotten most of the time in net. Adam Vey only got one game out there, and he was taken out because he was so awful. 5 goals allowed for Adam Vey so far. Vey, whatever it is. Out of Turkey there. Nicholas Threadberg, 2.84 goals against average. Another mediocre season for the Iowa Wild thus far. You're not getting a whole lot of scoring, and the goaltending has been okay from Threadberg, 2.84 so far. Threadberg not making enough of an impression, though, to be called up at any point, because Alex Stalock looks like a legitimate goalie, and Dubnyk, you're stuck with that salary. I mean, you're stuck. What are you going to do? Iowa Wild, really, to me, there's only a couple guys down there that I'm really thinking about getting called up, obviously, because the ones that, the other two would have been Luke Cunnin. Obviously, he's here now. Well, Mike Riley, he was already on the NHL roster. He just played 1 game down there and scored a goal. Mike Riley has emerged enough. I think he's at least good enough to be on the 5th or 6th pairing. You know what I mean? The 3rd pairing defenseman for the Wild, 5th or 6th defenseman, that type of thing. I think he's good enough to at least be there now, thankfully. At some point, though, obviously, Kyle Quincy, it's just a 1-year contract. So, I mean, and if somebody gets hurt, I really want to see Soucy or Seeler called up very soon. Whichever one you have a stronger opinion on. Obviously, the Wild might have a little bit stronger opinion on one versus the other. And Carson Soucy's value, I think, is he's going to be a good player. I think for I think he's at least a bottom 2 pairing type of guy in the NHL. Nick Seeler, same type of thing. I mean, maybe you never know. Maybe they'll be a pairing one day, or one of them is going to have to move up at some point into the middle pairing for the Wild, obviously, because they're both stay-at-home defensemen. You don't want to have two of those on the same pairing. So that's the situation there. To this point, the Iowa Wild not making anybody too excited. Unfortunately, you look at some of the prospects. Even Ladnia for the Erie Otters has been doing well. 17 points in 17 games in the OHL. 10 goals in 17 games. 17 points overall. So he's doing well at the OHL level, of course. Dmitry Sokolov, we always check on him. Still with the Sudbury Wolves. 23 points in 17 games. Told you so. See, it's getting to a point he's way too good for the OHL. Why can't... drives me nuts. I'm going to say it every single show, and you get the point. Jordan Greenway, taken in the second round behind Joel Eriksson Ek. He's doing fairly well there in Boston. More of a playmaker than a goal scorer, but a big physical power forward for Boston University. So far, 6 points in 9 games for the Hockey East's Boston University. Jack Sadek last night. Nice little nifty pass there for his blue line pairing there with Lindman out there. Nice setup pass there, and his first assist of the year. He's pretty much not been a factor offensively, but finally something with the Gophers. Finally putting up an assist there to Lindman. Very helpful in that sense. As the Gophers win again, they win their third straight game. As you remember, they lost. They split with North Dakota a couple of weeks back. That's their last loss. They swept Clarkson last week, and they're beating Michigan State so far this weekend. That's wonderful news. Obviously, if you're a Gopher fan, which I am, doggone it. I'm not going to cheer for like Duluth or any of them necessarily. Any other notables that we better... I think, obviously we talked about Susie, Steeler, Avery Peterson for the Minnesota Duluth. In 5 games, 3 points. So, okay, he's added a goal the past week here. 2 goals, 1 assist in 5 games for Avery Peterson in his final year with the Duluth Bulldogs. I keep wanting to call them the Duluth Blue Devils. I am getting tired of that. That's a silly mistake there. Where is he? There he is, Luis Belpidio. That's the one. He's really stepped up for Miami University there. His senior year, he's got 7 points in 7 games, 4 goals, and 3 assists. Belpidio has been huge for Miami University, adding a key goal last night. He's the captain, and he's got to be the best player in that team. And that's a guy that I think there's definitely going to be some hopes. At least a Jared Spurgeon type of guy, I think, for the Wild. Another Jared Spurgeon type, smaller guy at 5'10", 193, but provides that offense. And he's good at defense, good enough at defense to be the captain of his team. So that's very encouraging. He could be one of the leaders for this club later on, years down the road. I think Luis Belpidio will skate in the NHL, and I hope and pray to God he does. He's a valuable addition to this club if that does take place. He was taken 80th overall in the 3rd round of the 2014 draft behind Alex Tuch, unfortunately, who has obviously been traded away, and it's showing signs of being pretty good for the Las Vegas Golden Knights thus far. As the son of a gun has 3 goals, 3 assists, which of course totals 6 points in 8 games for the Vegas Golden Knights. Alex Tuch, a factor, not spectacular, but definitely showing something there for the Vegas Golden Knights. One other major notable, we got to check in on Kirill Kaprizov, who has been tearing it up there in the KHL, which I always say, guys don't score much there. I mean, the scoring is different in the KHL, and the guy's got 28 points in 23 games, 13 goals among those 28 points. Just been absolutely huge for CSKA Moscow. Wow. Hopefully we're not going to be talking about what could have been, because clearly this guy is going to be one of the better players for this team, if not one of the better players in the NHL one day, if and when he does come to the National Hockey League. That is the hope. So I guess we'll wrap up with Kirill Kaprizov at this stage. Going to encourage you to join the Facebook page and the Twitter account at Brave the Wild. At Brave the Wild is the Twitter account for the Brave the Wild show. Facebook.com/Brave the Wild is the Facebook page. Do give that a like and or follow on Facebook if you could. And there is MNW Players, Facebook.com/MNW Players. Do join that as well. You got Pavel Bunyet and Marek Skyba leading the way there from the Czech Republic there. We talk about everything from the prospects all the way up to the NHL roster. All the Euro leagues like Kaapo Kähkönen, who's also a pretty important prospect. I should bring him up as well, as he has just been tearing it up in SM Liga. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. 21 games so far, 1.72 goals against average. He's 10-6 for that club. He has been huge. There's no mention of shutouts so far for him, but I got to think there's been a few. 1.72 goals against average. Huge step up from last year and the year before when he was about 2.5 goals a game. Now he's down to about 1.5 goals a game for Luko Rama. Ruko Lama, that's the name of the team. Pardon me. He's been wonderful and a huge step up. And if you want a goalie of the future, that could be the guy. Possibly. I don't think it's Nicholas Svedberg. He might see some NHL action. Alex Stalock, we like him very much. He's a good backup goalie in the NHL. But I think Kaapo Kähkönen just might have that legitimate future in the NHL someday, and that's the hope. Alexandre Belanger taken a year before, and Ales Stezka as well a year later. He's in Czech right now, and yeah, only 2 games so far, over 4 goals a game, unfortunately for him, in Czech there. That's too bad. So hopefully he will continue to develop. I don't know if he has a little bit of confidence issues. That's kind of what you've been hearing, unfortunately, from Pavel Burnett, who told me about that not too long ago. But I think if there's a possible goalie of the future in the pipelines there, I think it's Kaapo Kähkönen out of Finland. And, of course, the Wild have had wonderful success from Finland in the past. It's been extensive, quite extensive for this club. The Finns love Minnesota, and I think Kaapo Kähkönen will be the same. At least I hope he will be. Okay, so, yeah, that was a huge one. That was a big one that he's been talking about, Mr. Pavel Burnett, posting on Minnesota Wild Hardcore as well to pass on the information to the masses there at Minnesota Wild Hardcore. Shout out to Chance Kostick and Jim Madill and Sarah Madill, who lead the way there. Awesome page. Just giving them a shout out, of course. But I will post links to the others. I'm an admin for MNW players on the Facebook page anyway. They actually have a website as well where they keep up with the prospects. Thank you again, Pavel Burnett and Marek Skyba, for that. Pavel Rikar also has been a friend and follower of that as well, and he's a Facebook friend, and he follows all the Wild and all that as well from the Czech Republic. So thanks again, everybody. Please tell your friends about the show. Please give Brave the Wild a positive rating on iTunes if you could. Please don't let my voice today give me a lower rating. Please don't judge me for that. I'm really sorry. A little disorientation today as well. Just, again, not feeling my best. That's why you might hear me stumbling a tiny bit over myself. Still giving you good information. Still giving you something to think about, something to talk about with your friends when it comes to the NHL and the Minnesota Wild. So hopefully I do provide enough entertainment and information for you for talking about this club and, of course, the prospects. I love keeping up with these guys because you always want to believe there's hope for this club in the future. One thing, again, final note here, I can't believe Steve Michalek is on the Rapid City Rush, as strong as he was last year, and how good he looked in the preseason. He's all the way down in the ECHL. Adam Vai instead of Steve Michalek. I don't understand what happened there. If something is amiss behind the scenes, I don't get it. I don't even understand. And he's not doing good at all down there either. 3.71. Something has just been amiss there. I'm miffed by it. So it is what it is there. We'll hopefully see something change in a positive direction for Steve Michalek. Draft pick in the 11th round, 2011 in the 6th round. Pardon me. See what's going on. Thank you again for listening. Going to wrap this up before my throat breaks open, and we will talk in a week, 10 days, whatever it is, when I'm available due to weather and all that. Because again, the cleanups need to continue. And if the snow ever melts and the leaves dry up, we'll get back to work there, and we will get to Brave the Wild. And, of course, by Thanksgiving or so, this show will be back on the air on a regular basis, weekly, and all that good stuff. Until then, take care, and we'll be back probably before Thanksgiving. We'll probably squeeze one more in before then, If not, I apologize. And then after that, weekly, we'll be back in the mix again. Thanks again. Take care and go wild.